Hey, I'm Missy.
I'm April, and this is SheelaNaGig.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Each week, of course, we present and explore our own SheelaNaGig. And to us, that is a woman whose strength and perseverance has led her to greatness. Somebody who empowers us, inspires us, and maybe it's somebody you've heard of.
Or somebody you haven't heard of.
Yeah, and you know.
But should.
Should know about them, right? Just giving these ladies more light, as I like to say.
Yeah.
And we're just grateful that you're here listening with us. We really appreciate you as a listener. We do. And we always welcome your questions, your comments, your Sheelas.
Yes, we get wonderful Sheela ideas all the time.
And maybe you want to share a Sheela with us.
Oh, we'd love
We
that.
always think it's kind of fun. For example, we had Julie Rollins, and she is a magician.
Mm-hmm.
So she ended up sharing a magician with us as well, which was a really interesting episode. So maybe you're a doctor, but you know of an amazing woman doctor you want to share with us. And obviously we'll talk about you too and interview you and such. But if that, is something you might like to do, please reach out to us.
Definitely.
Yeah. And how are you, April?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. After a crazy freaking volleyball weekend.
Yes, you were in volleyball heaven.
Hell.
Yes?
I think I wrote you a text that actually said I'm in volleyball hell.
You did, actually.
I think I did, yeah. I'm an artist, and my husband is an artist, my son is an artist, our daughter is a jock.
Right.
She's a full-on jock.
Yeah.
And I never thought that I would be a jock mom. I'm a volleyball mom. I think we've talked about this before in the podcast, but this past weekend were the tryouts, and we tried out at 4 different places. And she really wanted to get into this one volleyball club in particular called Sunshine.
Which is the elite
It
club.
really is. It's an amazing club.
Yeah.
And she got in. She got offered a really good position, team. Like, she was just thrilled. Actually, tears in her eyes when they actually stopped us as we were walking out, which was really amazing. Offered us a spot, right then and there, which was great. And so we're going to accept today.
Yay! Well, congrats to Ellery, and
you.
congrats to all of you.
And
now you can be in volleyball hell every weekend.
No, it's really fun. I make it something. What was hellish about it was just like, the high energy competition. I felt like I was with a bunch of dance moms. It was just so intense.
Well, I think it's fair to say, Missy, that it's a real big departure from the world of artistry and music that you usually...
It is. And, obviously I'm really proud of my daughter, and I want her to flourish. And I was joking. I say this all the time, actually, but, we're a family of adoption. And the three of us, my husband and my son and I, we're all quite neurodivergent. But then we have this daughter, and I always like to say she's got more confidence in her pinky than we have, in our entire beings combined.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's
so
true.
It's like, we're nurture, nature, I don't know, but we're very proud of her. And I'm excited to go to the games and stuff. It's going to be fun. It's just that I would say the tryouts were just I was actually losing sleep. I'm not even a competitive person. I'm really not.
You're turning into a volleyball mom.
Yeah, and I was like, what is going on? I just was I couldn't sleep. My head was spinning with the offers and with the, weighing the options, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm just happy to say that we have made a decision, and I've talked to the coach, who was wonderful, and we are absolutely delighted to begin this season at Sunshine Volleyball. So,
well, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. How about your kids? What's going on? I hear some exciting news.
Yes, my daughter, as you know, moved herself to New York City, 3,000 miles away.
Which is freaking amazing.
I love it. When I graduated from college on the East Coast, I came 3,000 miles to Los Angeles. She graduated from UCSB last summer in June, and she's moved to New York. And yesterday,
following in her mama's footsteps.
Yeah, she got herself a full-time job working with project managers, and she was kind of interested in project management. So
exciting.
Yeah, and my son, who was laid off from his job, isn't fully employed, but he got offered a temporary spot for as long as he wants it, helping out in an automotive shop. And
he's very good at that stuff.
Yeah, he is. So he's working while he's looking for work.
That's so good.
It's nice to have working kids.
It just feels good. It just feels good.
It does.
When you have those days, those moments of just knowing everybody's okay.
Right.
Everybody's
yes.
okay.
Absolutely.
Everyone's doing good. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's spooky season. It's that
spooky
Halloween time of the year.
And it's your turn to present a Sheela. Is she a spooky Sheela?
It's interesting because this story actually has both spooky and non-spooky Sheelas in it.
Oh, multiple Sheelas.
I'm saying plural. Yeah.
Okay.
Spooky, and I use the word spooky, but I don't even know if that's a good word to use. I'm not going to use that word.
Okay.
I'm not going to use the word spooky because that just seems too trivial for these spirits. And you'll see what I mean by that.
Okay.
You'll see what I mean by that. But I guess we will just jump right in.
Let's jump right in.
Yeah. So today's Halloween episode deals with several Sheelas, like I just said. And some of those Sheelas were living at the time.
Okay.
And some sacrificed their lives returning as spirits who haunted the living in a quest for justice and reckoning, I would say.
Okay, you've got me curious.
Do I have you curious?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. And this is something I'm sure you've probably heard about before, but I'm taking a deeper dive here, as I like to do. We said earlier, sometimes our Sheelas, it's something you've heard of, but maybe you need to learn a little bit more. I found this very interesting because, yes, I had heard of it and I knew a little bit about it because of American history and such, but I'm taking a little bit deeper dive today.
Okay.
So, today we are going to talk about the deadliest industrial disaster in the history of New York City.
Oh,
do you know what that was?
Of course. That was those fires in the factories?
Yep.
Factory fires?
Specifically, it was called the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. And it was considered one of the deadliest industrial disasters in U.S. history, even to this day. And it happened in Greenwich Village, of course, which is a neighborhood of Manhattan.
The lower side of Manhattan.
As you know, April is that's my necklace. As you know, April is our New Yorker here, so she can help us with that. And it happened on Saturday, March 25th in 1911 in what was called then the Ash Building. Just to clarify, you may be asking yourself, what is a shirtwaist? Because I said it's called the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. Were you wondering that, April?
No, but shirtwaist, is that like a dress or is that a shirt that goes to your waist? I'm making all this up. I have no idea.
Making stuff up.
I'm just making it up.
Just making it up.
What is it?
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked. It's equivalent to today's jeans in terms of mass market appeal at that time. Okay. Every woman had a shirtwaist. And it is basically a high-collared, buttoned-up ladies' blouse, and it was considered then that go-to fashion item for the new woman. It was also considered one of the country's first fashion statements that crossed class lines. So you saw very wealthy people wearing them, and then you saw people who were not as wealthy wearing them. It was, it was an interesting fact that kind of every woman,
had mass
regardless
appeal.
of their class, had a shirtwaist or two. So it was a really booming industry at that time. And, the booming ready-made clothing industry made this stylish shirtwaist affordable even for working women, like I said before, which was very exciting. And it was typically worn you'd wear it with an ankle-length skirt, and it was appropriate considered for any occasion as well, which people love. You could wear it for work, you could wear it for play, it was comfortable, it was practical. And of course, when you think about the fashion that preceded it, like corsets and hoops, people were very excited to have something that was more loose-fitting, that was more loose-fitting and comfortable. Yeah, I can see why too. So that Ash Building and the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory was under the ownership of two Russian Jew immigrants, Max Blank and Isaac Harris. And they were producing more than 1,000 shirtwaists a day back in 2011, and they were considered actually the largest manufacturer of blouses in New York at that time. Very successful.
At the expense of...
Here we go. Their high-volume production relied on the intense and poorly regulated labor of about 500 to 600 garment workers at a time.
Yes, to be clear, there weren't labor laws in those days.
There was not. And Mostly it was recent Italian or Jewish immigrant women aged 14 to 23 who worked 9 hours a day on weekdays, plus an additional 7 hours on Saturdays.
Oh, they got off a few hours early for Saturday.
Yeah,
how nice.
Yeah, and they got off on Sunday. Day of prayer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure that was plenty of time off.
Of course, for Jews, it was the Sabbath on Saturday.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow, they still work. They probably had no choice. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're poor, you gotta work, you gotta eat. Yeah.
Oh, sad. So basically they're working 52 hours a week, and they earn between $7 and $12 a week.
That much. Well, of course, times were very different then, but those were still low wages.
Okay, so that's equivalent to about $236 to $405 a week in today's currency.
Which nobody could make it on.
No.
In today's economy.
No. So the owners were said to prefer hiring immigrant women over men, of course, because they would work for less, and they were less likely to complain and unionize. Often these women were, again, very poor. They were young, and a lot of them had no education and no command of the English language.
Yeah, very convenient.
Yes. So, as you can probably imagine, at the Triangle, as they called it, worker safety took a backseat to productivity. In a lot of factories, this was the case.
That's true.
Yeah. So practicing fire drills was actually prohibited.
Least they waste time not being productive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Prohibited. Fire escapes were blocked with bolts of fabric and extra sewing machines.
Oh my gosh.
I remember reading one of the women's accounts of working there, and she said the very day this happened, she was sitting on the windowsill talking to her friends, and she noticed there were these buckets over to the side. And she said, "Oh, I think those buckets are supposed to be filled with water." And she said, "Wow, wouldn't that be terrible if there was a fire? We wouldn't even have any buckets of water."
Oh my goodness.
And it was that very day that the fire broke out.
Oh gee.
So they had just nothing in place, and they had 3 passenger lifts or elevators, but one at the time was out of order. And to ward off any theft or unauthorized breaks, the workroom doors were also locked from the outside.
Oh my gosh.
What a great place to work, huh?
So sad.
Yeah, so they were just kind of locked in there
cringing
like
already.
Oh yeah, you can cringe. So on this day, Saturday, March 25th, 2011, the Triangle was in full swing with nearly 600 workers. But at approximately 4:40 p.m., just as the workday was ending, a fire flared up in a scrap bin under one of the cutter's tables. And apparently it was very flammable fabric.
Oh, gee.
And the manager attempted to use a fire hose to extinguish it, but he was unsuccessful because he realized that the hose was completely rotted through and its valve was rusted shut.
Oh no.
So not only did they not have buckets of water that were supposed to be in place, they did not have a working hose either. So as the fire, continued to grow, panic ensued, and the first fire alarm was sent at 4:45 by a passerby, actually. He was walking down Washington Place, looked up, saw some smoke from the 8th floor. And so immediately the word started traveling that there was a fire in the building. And the owners, Blank and Harris at the time, they were in attendance that day too. They didn't always come in, but that day they were there, and they had invited their children to the factory.
Oh my, well, hey.
So they were ensconced in their 10th floor offices, which were apparently very fancy.
Yeah.
And they were alerted of the fire by their switchboard operator. And so they and their 70 office workers escaped very quickly by taking the stairwell to the rooftop and climbing over to the adjacent New York University Law School.
They didn't unlock the doors on the 8th floor?
No.
Oh my gosh.
They just went and saved themselves.
I know this story does not end well, but
no, it
it's
doesn't.
just...
And you think just about how incredulous all of this is.
Yes.
Apparently, they didn't even have a key. There was one guy who had a key, and he was one of the first ones to escape.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, because there was an elevator, but I'm getting to that. He was one of the first ones out the door and took the key with him.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Yeah. That's murder.
It's murder. It is murder. So, yes, they escaped very easy and quickly to the to the adjacent law school, but however, very sadly, their workers faced a far worse fate, as you can imagine. And again, those doors to the stairwells and the exits were all locked, and this was considered a common practice, actually, in all factories at that time. Because, they were worried, again, that their workers would take unauthorized breaks. They would go smoke. Also, they were maybe stealing things. And many of the workers could not escape from the burning building, and they jumped from those high windows.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. And
we saw that on 9/11.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
I mean, history repeats itself, unfortunately. So, various historians have further ascribed the locked doors, though, to management's wanting to also keep out union organizers.
Heaven forbid.
Heaven forbid, right? But that would make sense. Yeah. That would make sense. Yeah. So that was another reason. And there were no sprinklers in the building either. No, there were sprinklers, but no working sprinklers, I should say.
So even the modalities they had in place to create a safer work environment were useless because the buckets were empty.
Yeah.
The sprinklers weren't working, and the water hose is broken.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of a recipe for disaster, I would say.
Yes, I would say.
So the young workers tried to exit the building by the elevator. Remember I said there was an elevator? Yes. But it was designed to hold only 12 people at a time, and the operator was only to make about 4 trips back and forth before it completely broke down amidst the heat and flames.
Not to mention the fact that we're always told if there is a fire, use the stairs, never use the elevator. So.
But they didn't have a choice. That was their only possibility of escape.
There were no stairs?
They would get down to the bottom of the stairs and it would be locked.
They were locked. Right. Okay.
Everything was locked. So they couldn't get out.
Oh, this is horrible.
It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. As I was doing this research, I had just this tightness in my chest.
Of course.
I teared up a few times. I mean, it's just so freaking sad.
Yeah.
So in a desperate attempt to escape the fire, several girls left behind waiting for the elevator plunged down the shaft to their deaths. The girls who tried to flee via the stairwells, of course, were also
trapped,
met with awful demises when they found again those locked doors, and so many of them suffocated from smoke or were just burned alive. And terrified employees began crowding onto the single exterior fire escape. There was a fire escape, but the fire escape was flimsy and poorly anchored, and it may have already been broken, they suspect, before the fire even started. So all these people are on there, 20 people are on there, and it soon started twisting and collapsing from the heat and the overloading, and it spilled all 20 victims nearly 100 feet to their deaths on the concrete pavement below.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine witnessing this horror? Can you just imagine? So as the firefighters arrived, and they arrived relatively quickly, they witnessed a horrible scene, obviously. People were jumping from the windows, they were falling like flies, and the bodies of the people jumping out actually started to fall on the hoses of the fire engine. Oh my goodness. So it kept them from being able to readily grab the hoses because they were trying to move these bodies around to actually get to the hoses.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
And also the firefighters' ladders reached just below the 7th floor window. Those are their highest ladders, and this all happened on the 8th and 9th floor.
This is horrible.
Of the building. So they didn't even have appropriate ladders for the situation.
Oh my gosh.
It's just like it just keeps adding, worse and worse.
Keeps getting
insult
worse.
to injury, just keeps getting worse and worse. So the firefighters continued to watch as a girl leapt from the 8th floor, but her dress got tangled up in some wires and she was left suspended high above as the crowd watched, unable to help her.
Wow.
Eventually her dress burned through and she too fell to her death. Can you imagine watching that?
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do. So there was a reporter from the United Press. His name was William Shepard, and he witnessed as a man on the same side was seen from an adjacent building. This man was running from window to window on the 9th floor, and he was picking up women in front of each window and kind of just chucking them out the windows.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, one by one. And then he paused at the final woman, the 4th woman, and he shared a kiss with her before he himself jumped out the window.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So it was never known if he believed that there would be nets to catch them or if he was trying to shorten their suffering. Nobody really knows. But can you imagine witnessing that?
No.
Yeah.
This whole thing is unimaginable.
It's unimaginable. Yeah. And yeah, so we're getting to the nets too. So A young girl of about 13 was seen hanging by her fingertips from the 9th floor windowsill for a few minutes. And then the fire reached her fingers, and she fell into a waiting net. By this point, they had gotten some nets situated, only to be crushed by 2 other women who jumped at the same time, ripping the net and thus adding all 3 to the death list.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. This is horrible.
It's just horrible.
It's just horrible.
Yeah.
Oh.
So what kept happening is they had these nets, and they would tell people to wait, trying to get people to jump one at a time.
And I would imagine it is hard to wait when you're feeling like, your life.
But they weren't waiting. They were all jumping at once, and then
Hysteria.
The nets would rip. Mm-hmm. And
panic.
They would die. They would fall to their deaths.
Wow.
So another girl remained standing on the ledge until she, too, became covered in flames, and her hair was scorched, and she looked skyward. She placed her arms to her sides, and then she jumped straight down feet first. Her name was Bertha Weintraut, and she was later found alive, if only for a few minutes, buried amid a pile of corpses on the sidewalk.
Oh.
Fire was extinguished within an hour, and by 7 p.m., less than 2 hours after it had started, the firefighters ran up the stairs, and forced their way up the stairs, and ran into those floors, the 8th and 9th floors, just to see if there was anything to salvage. And they reported that 50 roasted bodies were found on the 9th floor alone. Oh. The charred bodies of 25 victims were found piled against locked doors, and then 25 more were found huddled together in the cloakroom.
Oh, how horrible.
What a way to go. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely shocking and heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And each body, as it was found, was carefully lifted from the burning surroundings. They wrapped the bodies in cloth, and they lined up these coffins, caskets, all along the sidewalk.
Oh my goodness.
100 of them.
Wow.
Which wasn't even enough.
How did they deploy them all so fast?
Apparently, again, that wasn't the complaint. Like, the firefighters were on the scene and apparently tried really diligently to manage the situation, but that wasn't the issue. So they had these caskets lined up, and they would just hoist, a body at a time into the ground with a pulley, and then they were moved eventually to the morgue at Bellevue Hospital or the Charities Pier morgue. And that same reporter, again, his name was William Shepard from the United Press, he would later say, and this is freaking awful, "I learned a new sound that day, a sound more horrible than description can picture, the thud of a speeding living body on a stone sidewalk."
Oh, gee. Oh my gosh.
You would never forget that.
Right?
And I suddenly had this feeling of complete nausea when I said that.
Of course.
And I'm sorry. I should have probably given a trigger warning, because this is very grotesque. I'm sorry. This is hard probably for a lot of people to listen to. So that's probably the worst of it at this point, but pretty bad shit. I'm sorry. So in the end, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory caused the deaths of 146 garment workers. 123 were young women and girls, and 23 were men. And they all died from severe burns, smoke inhalation, falls from great heights, and injuries sustained from jumping to their deaths. So at this point, a growing number of bystanders, of course, gathered on the street below. And, they just stood there in shock.
Yeah.
Witnessing people falling, jumping. And by this time, a lot of family members had come as well.
Yeah.
And it was a kind of a combination of strangers and family members, and it just complete hysteria. And a lot of them just became hysterical or even suicidal.
Yeah.
There was a man who actually, when he realized his daughter was one of the jumpers and that she was dead, he tried to kill himself with a knife, right on the spot.
Oh, that's so heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. So, they had to call in doctors and create a makeshift hospital right there on the sidewalk just to help these people who were in the state of shock and suicide. And it was just so shocking. They had never experienced something like this in the city of New York. So doctors and nurses rushed over from Bellevue Hospital, and they worked for days trying to just help these grieving people from being added to the list of stolen lives. And later, they were combing through the wreckage, and rescue workers would recover 14 engagement rings.
Oh.
That just stuck with me.
Yeah.
That just broke my heart, because obviously that's so indicative of these young women who are just starting their lives.
Yeah, yeah.
14 engagement rings.
Oh.
The fire marshal concluded that the likely cause of the fire was the disposal of a unextinguished match or cigarette butt in that scrap bin of very flammable fabrics. And it also contained, I didn't mention this, 2 months worth of accumulated fabric cuttings.
Oh, geez. So lots
You
of
think they could have
material
emptied
to
those
burn.
occasionally? No. And of course, smoking was banned in the factory, but cutters were still known to sneak cigarettes.
Sure.
So the New York Times article, though, also suggested that maybe the fire had been started by engines running the sewing machines.
Oh.
That's another.
They could have heated up.
Yeah, they could have heated up and started it. Nobody was really exactly sure what started it. There were a lot of theories, but I don't think they ever really completely decided what happened. It's not like today when they can really analyze that.
Right. But in an environment like that, there are so many likely opportunities for a fire like that.
A lot of culprits, for sure.
Yeah.
But I thought this was very telling. So there was a series of articles in Collier's that noted a pattern of arson among certain sectors of the garment industry at that time.
Oh.
So whenever their particular product fell out of fashion or had excessive inventory, you'd often see a fire.
Oh, dear.
And this, of course, was...
I don't want to go there in my brain.
I know you don't. And I hate to as well, but all we have to consider, all possibilities here.
Well, you have to consider the fact that the business owner and whoever it was that was the keeper of the key got themselves to safety without any thought of protecting anybody else in the factory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, of course, they did this, though, to collect insurance. Because, yes, all these people died and it was horrific, but God forbid they lost their precious factory and all their materials.
Right. Yeah. Their financial investment.
Yeah, So the Insurance Monitor, a leading industry journal, observed that shirtwaists had recently fallen out of fashion, and that insurance for such stock was fairly saturated with moral hazard, as they put it. And although Blank and Harris were known for having had several previous suspicious fire claims in their factories, arson was not suspected in this case. Oh, yeah, that's not sus at all.
No.
I'm sure they had nothing to do with it.
Right.
I'm sure they had nothing to do with it, April.
Oh, gee.
It was not the 50 charred, roasted bodies found inside the building that so outraged the public, but rather the heaps of bodies along the sidewalk that nobody could avoid, and rows of mostly young girls just lying dead on the street.
Yeah, I guess that's a difference because nobody saw the charred bodies inside the building except for the people whose jobs it was to recover them.
But it became very real.
Yeah, very public.
If you're
and
walking
visible.
down the street, I try to even fathom coming across that and observing, being a bystander.
Well, again, remembering 9/11, which was a very different set of circumstance, but
somewhat comparable, yeah.
Yeah, seeing bodies just flying. It was devastating.
It was.
And, that wasn't tons of, dozens of them, so.
Yeah,
but
one is too many.
Yeah, one is too many.
One is too many. Yeah, so by the end, 62 people had actually jumped.
Wow.
So they were, I should say, jumped, fallen, or were even pushed. Some of them were, pushed from the upper floors. Thousands of people were there, again, to witness it. And the average age of those killed in the fire was 19.
Oh, my goodness. How horrible.
Which explains the engagement rings.
Yeah.
And the public outrage was carried like a wave across the country. Reporters and pictures of the tragedy appeared all over the newspapers, all across the country. This was the top story for quite a while. Everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
And again, it's such a absolutely shocking and horrific incident, but I am getting to our Sheelas. I just want to let you know. I know
you're setting it up.
I'm setting this up. So I didn't quite know how I would. This is what I've chosen. I'm going to go first with what I will say are real Sheelas of this story. I mean, everybody's a real Sheela, but I'm going to talk about the spirits of the many women who are said to still haunt the building today.
Oh, okay.
And this is where we get into our Halloween episode. And again, see when I said spooky earlier? I don't want to call them spooky.
Yeah.
No, I want to call them, their stories can be interpreted as kind of achieving a form of agency and remembrance, and remembrance in death that was denied to them in life. I think that's really important to look at it that way. So it was just an absolutely unthinkable price to pay for the true horror. But in the end, and we're getting to this too, this led to a lot of significant labor reforms that helped improve working conditions for countless future employees.
And it was high time.
It was.
It was a shame that that incident had to happen,
and that it went on as long as it did. It wasn't the first fire.
No, and there were a lot of abuses of men and women throughout that whole period.
Yeah, there sure were. And children.
Oh my gosh, not to mention the absence of child labor laws and standards. Young children going to work hours and hours toiling under terrible conditions.
It is so sad. I was just thinking, I think about this sometimes. My grandmother, my Irish grandmother, who died when I was 2, but I get to hear about her, and one of her favorite Irish expressions apparently was, "It's an ill wind that doesn't blow someone good."
Oh.
Which, again, what a price to pay.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, unthinkable.
Yep.
But there was a positive outcome in the end.
Thank goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, we can thank those victims, though, of this devastating tragedy for, in death, their sacrifice, which they never, of course, asked for.
Right.
Has made a huge impact on labor reform as we know it today. Yeah. So thank you. I'm looking up at the heavens right now.
Yeah.
Thank you. So today, that building where the Triangle fire occurred, it was called the Ash Building. It has been repurposed. It's not called the Ash Building anymore, and New York University has taken it over, and they have renamed it the Brown Building. So the Brown Building is still standing, and it contains undergraduate biology classrooms. So those sewing machines, I guess, have been replaced by lab equipment and microscopes. And these Sheelas, like I said, a lot of these Sheelas now haunt the Brown Building to remind us of their unbid sacrifice.
Wow. Well, tell more.
Yeah, so New York co-eds continue to claim seeing wisps of smoke in the air for no reason and feeling choked or struggling to breathe.
Wow.
And there have been plenty of claims of apparitions of disordered, sooty, and charred women staggering down the hallways.
Oh, wow.
Or sometimes seen floating or staggering down the street in front of the building. And there's a lot of them.
Wow.
A lot of these stories. So the stories are told also of formerly locked doors suddenly mysteriously unlocking themselves. People have been said to look in the bathroom mirrors and suddenly see burned faces appearing.
Wow.
And also students feel vaguely pressed to flee the building for no reason at all. They get a lot of them have said they suddenly have this fright, this feeling that they have to get out of the building.
So, I did teach graduate school for a while, and what an excuse to your instructor. I just had to flee.
Oh my God, we needed a little levity right now. So I'm really glad you said that. Oh my God. I'm feeling the spirits. I got to get out of here.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, teach. I got to run.
I recommend everybody to look up the history of the building they're in school at. Maybe you can use that toward your advantage. It's possible. I shouldn't say that.
You shouldn't say that.
No,
well, it does sound like something out of a Harry Potter movie.
Yeah. Okay. So also body-shaped shadows have been said to appear falling from windows or fluttery kind of figures. And often the sounds of screams as if they are still trying to escape from the blaze, and echoes of crackling fire can be heard just out of nowhere. So also, this is the worst one, I think. There's often just the smell of smoke, and it comes on really suddenly, and just as quickly it'll disappear. But not only is that smell of smoke said to come out of nowhere, but also, worst of all, that lingering smell of burning flesh.
Oh.
Which apparently has made some students sick. Maybe it's a good excuse, I don't know, but it's so prevalent that they have to leave the building.
Wow. That is amazing.
Again, I don't know what you believe. Sometimes I don't even know what I believe, but I try to stay very open. And there are a lot of sightings and a lot of experiences that you can look up. Students have also seen women in 1900s-style garb fleeing down hallways after appearing out of nowhere from one of the bathrooms. And again, whether or not there are really ghosts at the Brown Building, or even residual haunting in the parapsychological sense of the term, this is absolutely a building that's haunted by history and memory.
Yes.
As all disaster sites are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The most striking ghostly experience was related by Susan, not her real name, but she was a secretary who worked at the Brown Building. And she worked there for many years. She had many experiences there. But she explained that she had been working later than usual one evening in particular. And by the time she left to go home, most of the other employees and students had already left. Like, I don't think I would do that.
Right.
I would
I'd be afraid.
I'd be a little too freaked out. I would be leaving with the other employees for sure.
Yeah.
So as she walked out of the building, she noticed that there was a woman kind of standing there, and then she walked past her, and she had this little bit of a stagger and a very dazed look on her face. She also looked very disheveled and dirty, and her hair was really kind of messy, almost charred looking, and her clothes appeared to be burnt. And so she called to the woman and said, do you need help? Excuse me, ma'am, can I help you? Because she felt so horrible for this woman. But the young woman didn't respond. She just kept walking, and she turned the corner. So Susan, thinking the woman maybe was really needing help and just not saying so, she kind of chased after her around the corner, went around the corner, but once she turned that corner, the sidewalk was empty. And she was right behind her, like 3 feet behind her. The woman was gone, totally vanished.
Wow.
So she is convinced that
she saw a ghost.
Yes. I would be too, I think. We've talked about having some ghostly sightings ourselves.
Yeah.
I do believe in spirits. Do you?
Yeah, I do. I try not to dwell too much because I'm a chicken.
Yeah.
So, but I'm certainly open to the possibility.
Yeah. So the 9th floor, which is where those 50 people were found roasted, is still considered the most haunted floor. Because that's, again, where most of the people died, and it seems that phantom workers are still trying to escape. And their footsteps also can be heard running up and down the stairwells on occasion. And again, students say that lectures and study sessions are frequently interrupted by just a crackling sound of flames.
Wow.
And they kind of look around.
Do faculty or administrators ever talk about it as well, or is it mostly students?
That's a good question.
You mentioned the office worker.
Yeah, the office worker. There's a lot of them, and again, I could have gone down that rabbit hole forever. I just kind of had to choose a few select. I will tell you that there was a writer named Laban Jabalis, and he describes his own experiencing visiting the now Brown Building. And I'm going to quote him in this passage here. The floor was an old black and white checkered pattern. The lights almost unnoticeably flickered as I stood there. I lost my breath. My heart was racing because although I knew I was alone in that hallway, I could feel eyes on me. I could feel a slight pressure up against me like bodies crowded in a room. I could feel gazes on my back and on my face, but everywhere I looked, there was no one there. I decided to peer into the stairwell because I heard that it is the original stairwell of the building. And of course it was dark and extremely narrow, and only one person at a time could walk down those stairs. That's the first time I heard that. That's pretty shocking.
Yeah, that is shocking.
Because I was picturing these...
a wide...
Yeah, and I was picturing maybe people got trampled. I guess that's why they didn't mention anybody getting trampled, because that's what I was thinking too. I was surprised they didn't say people got trampled, but that's why, because only one person could get down these stairwells at a time.
Wow.
Yeah. So... to be continued, but I could barely take 2 steps into the stairwell before I got so nervous that I just had to run back to the elevator. The stairwell where so many women died, their lungs gasping for clean air and their skin swelling for space, I could feel a clench in my chest. I think what I heard was just the wind that surged through that stairwell, or maybe it was the ghost trying to speak to me. The hair on the back of my neck and on my arms literally stood up, and then I knew I had to get out of there. I hit the elevator button, anxiously waiting for its arrival, and when it finally came, I got in the elevator and felt such a relief of all my panic and anxiety. Before I went up to the 8th floor, I talked to the security guard, Mr. Kroner, an expert on the history of the building, and he told me you have to believe it to feel it. Before I went into the Brown building, I was critical of the possibilities of spirits roaming the earth because I was scared of the truth. But after just 10 minutes on that 8th floor alone, I knew I felt something up there, something supernatural.
Wow.
That's freaky.
That is freaky.
That's super freaky.
Yeah.
But what I kept thinking about, which made me sad, is I mean, it sounds like these ghosts or spirits feel trapped.
Yeah, that's exactly. It doesn't sound like they're necessarily voluntarily having retribution, but that their souls actually never left the building.
And that makes me really sad.
Yeah.
That makes me really sad. And obviously, it's a constant reminder.
Yeah.
Which, again, history repeats itself, and it's often important to have those reminders. But what a steep price to pay.
Yeah.
You know, being a spirit that can never leave those surroundings.
Wow.
Those just sad surroundings.
It's sad to consider, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, a paranormal person needs to go in there and set them free.
I was going to ask you if anybody came in and performed any exorcisms or anything like that.
It's surprising, April. I didn't go down that rabbit hole. It is surprising, I know, but I think I'm going to have to tonight. Tonight I'll be scrolling on my phone, and that is what I'm going to look up, because if they haven't already, they should.
Yeah, you would think.
I think we've learned, right? Have we learned yet? Well,
we'll see.
We'll see. We're getting there. So quickly moving ahead here. Sorry,
yes.
We do have a few more Sheelas in this episode. The shirtwaist maker's story, though, was so compelling because it just brought all this attention to those events leading up to the fire and after the fire, and that their story, of course, inspired hundreds and hundreds of activists, mostly women, across the state and even the nation to push for fundamental reforms. On the day of the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, a woman named Frances Perkins, some of you may have heard her, and we'll definitely have to do an episode on her. She was having tea in New York City's Washington Square. And crumpets, I think. I don't know if she said
tea and crumpets.
But she heard the fire alarms, and she could hear screams.
Oh.
And so she was with her friends, and they left the tea room, and they rushed to the scene, and they watched in horror as they stood helplessly watching the factory burn and all of those who perished from their falls. Again, I can't even imagine being a bystander.
Right.
And the sight of the deaths was so deeply traumatic for Perkins that she decided right then and there that she needed to change the course of her life abruptly, that she really wanted to be an activist and make a change. And this just fueled a lifelong dedication to improving working conditions and workers' rights.
Well, that's good to hear. Good to go from tea and crumpets to activism.
See, that's what's amazing.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So there was a stricken consciousness. No, I'm going to read this. This is actually a quote of Perkins. She said, "There was a stricken conscience of public guilt, and we all felt that we had been wrong, that something was wrong with that building, which we had accepted, or the tragedy never would have happened. Moved by the sense of stricken guilt, we banded ourselves together to find a way by law to prevent this kind of disaster." Yeah. After the fire, she left her job at the Consumers League to become the executive secretary for the Committee on Safety of the City of New York, and she later became the first Secretary of Labor under President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and served from 1933 to 1945, the longest serving in that position. And she was also considered the first female cabinet member.
Wow.
What a Sheela.
There's a Sheela for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so funny because when you first said she was having tea and crumpets and she heard the screams, and I went, oh, like poor her. And then I felt bad because, my gosh, not poor her. Well, and, like, gee, I'm sorry her tea got interrupted. But,
I love that juxtaposition.
Yeah.
That she was able to recognize what the suffering of others, even though she was not suffering.
Exactly, and to really turn her life and career around and be of such service.
Yeah, so I definitely think we're going to have to do an episode on her. But she was also quoted as saying that the day of the Triangle Fire was the day the New Deal began, because she was very involved in Roosevelt's New Deal. And from this point forth, Perkins fought for a 40-hour work week.
Yay.
Maybe you've heard of that.
Well, I heard
a minimum wage.
That.
Maybe you've heard of that.
Yeah.
Unemployment compensation, employment rules for women and children, and regulated working conditions.
Wow.
Also employment rules for men, obviously. I don't know why it doesn't say men, but yeah. So these are just some of the reforms won in the fire's wake. And indeed, which is amazing about it, again, we're talking Sheelas here, working women were all at the forefront of this fight for reform.
How inspiring.
They were the ones who were at the forefront, leading to, again, significant legislative changes and a lasting legacy of worker safety to this day.
Wow.
I'm going to talk about a few more Sheelas real quickly here. Also, 3 months later, after pressure from Perkins and other activists, New York's governor signed a law creating the Factory Investigating Commission, which had these unprecedented powers. And the commission investigated nearly 2,000 factories at that time, and 8 laws were enacted as a result covering fire safety, now requiring factory inspections and mandatory fire drills. Remember how there was no time for fire drills?
That's right.
Before?
Yes. What a waste of time.
What a waste of time, yeah. So that following year, they pushed for 25 more laws, entirely rewriting New York State's labor laws and creating a state Department of Labor to enforce those laws. And during, again, the Roosevelt administration, Francis Perkins and Robert Wagner, who chaired the commission, helped create the nation's most sweeping worker protections through that New Deal, including the National Labor Relations Act. Also, about a week after the fire, here's some more Sheelas for you, activists Anne Morgan and Elva Belmont hosted a meeting. These are very wealthy women. They hosted a meeting at the Metropolitan Opera House.
Oh, how lovely.
Yes. To demand action on fire safety. And people of all backgrounds packed the hall.
Wow.
In support.
That is so uplifting to hear.
Very uplifting. Yeah. And then a few days later, more than 350,000 people participated in a funeral march for the Triangle Dead, led by the activists.
Wow.
So the fire not only led to legislation requiring improved factory safety standards, such as exit doors being unlocked during operating hours, and sprinklers
that actually work.
If the factory employed more than 25 people, which is a little weird.
That is a little weird, but okay. But I could see where the more people you have, the more hazards you have.
That's true. That is true. But it also helped spur the growth of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union.
Woo! So much for not unionizing. Go ladies.
Go ladies. Led by activist Anne Sheela, Florence Kelly, and she also, of course, fought for better working conditions for sweatshop workers. There's also a Sheela named Clara Lemlich, and she became a full-time activist after being blacklisted by the Garment Industry Association and founded a working-class suffrage group. She later organized mothers around housing and educational issues. A little side note, I read that she died, I think, in her 90s, and up until the time she died, she also was always organizing the women at her assisted living.
Fantastic. I love that.
She was I know, I thought that was really cute. But not cute, but awesome, I should say. Yes.
Yeah.
Also a little bit cute, but awesome. Okay, so I guess you may be wondering about what happened to the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory owners, Blank and Harris. Are you wondering about that?
I'm a little afraid, but go ahead.
You should be a little bit afraid. But I'm glad you asked, because it's an important part of the story. So, on April 11th, 1911, the Shirtwaist Kings, Max Blank and Isaac Harris, and of course they were also the owners of the building.
Right.
They were charged and tried for 7 counts of manslaughter in the first and second degree. Why only 7? I don't know.
Yeah, a lot more than 7
died. I thought that
died.
was strange, but 7. And again, this is another rabbit hole I could go down, but I didn't. But, still weak from her wounds, there was a fire survivor named Cecilia Walker, yet another Sheela. And she was one of 155 eyewitnesses called to testify. And she barely made it out, actually. Wow. So she was a good witness. And she claimed that She was waiting for the elevator, and behind her there were tons of screaming people, and she could feel them pushing and pushing more and more, and she knew in a few seconds that she would be pushed into the elevator shaft as she was waiting for the elevator. So she made a quick decision, and she actually saw that center cable of the elevator in front of her, and she made a jump for it.
Oh, wow.
And then was able to go down.
Right, the cable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Apparently she had a muff with her or something too, and so she was able to take the muff.
Oh, and
so her hands
wouldn't get ripped up. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny when they were interviewing, she said they were complimenting her, and when they were interviewing her about, that was so smart of you to use. And she said, well, I loved that muff. It was new. I was really excited to have it. I was going to take it with me no matter what. I wasn't even really thinking about
it saving her life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it did. So at that point, she went to St. Vincent's Hospital. And she was there for a very long time, and they thought she was going to die initially. And she basically woke up, and there were faces of a priest and a nun, and they were praying over her.
Wow.
And everybody, of course, they thought that she was going to die. And because they basically found her at the bottom of the shaft.
Oh.
And she had, in fact, saved herself by jumping, but she landed in that, pile of other bodies because other people had the same idea, maybe just jumped into the shaft and didn't grab the cable. And she supposedly, after she jumped, she doesn't remember anything else. She just went unconscious. The next memory is, being in the hospital with the priest and the nun looking over her. But they told her that she was buried under a pile of bodies.
Oh my gosh.
And they just happened to find her toward the bottom.
Alive. Isn't that amazing?
And she often wondered how she was saved, and she was just very lucky. So worker after worker went on to testify of their inability to open the doors and use that as their only viable escape route, seeing as the elevator broke and
the doors were locked.
Yeah, exactly. So more and more testimony supported this fact. Yet the brilliant defense attorney, Max Stewart, somehow planted enough doubt in the jurors' minds to win a not guilty.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I sort of knew this was coming, whether it was something that I'd heard or learned years ago, or you just get the misogynistic idea that nothing's going to happen to these guys.
No, they're untouchable. They have money. It's just disgusting. You know what sucks too? They were immigrants. They came from Russia. Yeah. They were immigrants.
Right. They made it good on the backs of poor laborers.
Other immigrants.
And abused them.
Yeah. So grieving families, of course, and much of the public felt that justice had not been served. And, very sadly, Harris and Blank continued their defiant attitude toward the authorities. Just a few days after the fire, they opened in a new location.
Oh my gosh.
They had no time to waste, April.
Of
they got
course
to get their shirtwaists made. So they opened the factory in a new location. And shortly thereafter, it was found not to be fireproof. It had no fire escapes, and it did not have adequate exits.
Only a testament to their lack of bereavement over what happened to their other employees.
Yes.
Wow.
But they basically just received a slap on the wrist. And also in August of 1913, Max Blank was charged with locking one of the doors in his factory during working hours. He was brought to court and he was fined $20, and then the judge apologized to him for the imposition.
Oh my gosh.
What the fuck?
I know.
What the fuck? In December of 1913, the interior of his factory was found to be littered with rubbish piled 6 feet high. Sound familiar?
Yes.
Isn't this what happened at the Triangle?
Let's just keep doing it.
Yeah, with scraps, in bins that were not emptied.
Wow.
And just no regulation. There was all kinds of flammable wicker baskets about. But this time, instead of the court appearance and a fine, he was just served a stern warning.
Oh, God. So it got worse, not better, as he continued to violate common sense. Forget laws.
Money speaks. Money talks. And it's just so fucking devastating. So despite the evidence against them and the mob of people outside the courthouse chanting, "Murderers, murderers," the two were cleared of any wrongdoing, acquitted of all charges by the jury after only 2 hours of deliberation. And in the end, no one was held accountable for the Triangle deaths. 23 individual civil lawsuits, though, for damages against the company were also filed. But 3 years after the fires, Harris and Blank settled. They paid out $75 per life lost.
Oh, gee.
All right, so I had to figure that out. That's 146 lives times $75. That's $10,950 today.
That's pathetic.
Equivalent to about $356,000 in 1914.
Oh my gosh. That's just horrible.
It's
just such an injustice.
Inexcusable, right?
Yeah.
So the Triangle Waste Company finally ceased operations in 1918, thankfully.
Thankfully.
But the owners maintained throughout that their factory was a model of cleanliness and sanitary conditions, and that it was second to none in the country. Blank and Harris completed their association with the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory by filing an insurance claim in excess of their losses, garnering them a profit from the fire of more than $60,000.
Oh my gosh.
A hefty sum in 1911. That's over about $2 million today.
Wow.
Yeah. So they made, they had to spend $356,000, but you know what? They made $2 million. So, yeah. But the legacy of the shirtwaist makers and the memories of these young women who perished in that terrible fire resulted in major change in the way that many people, thought about protecting workers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
true.
Again, prior to the fire, the government left businesses alone regarding the safety of their workers, and that all changed. And again, afterward, because of so many activists, including a lot of Sheelas, the government had little but no choice to begin instituting sweeping safety laws that changed the history for American workers forever. Hopefully forever.
Hopefully forever, yeah.
So I'm going to leave you with a quote from two writers, one named Rena Heiber and the other Andrea James, but they put it best in their book, which is called The Haunted History of Invisible Women. Do you love that name?
I love that name.
To quote them, they say, here in the NYU buildings that ring the park, in the hallways of what is now a staggeringly expensive private university, young minds are molded and shaped, taught to earn their keep to repay their student loans. Here adjacent professors toil without safety nets. Outside on the streets, taxi and delivery drivers, waitstaff, performers, and tour guides are all surviving. The push and pull of capital and labor continues as the ghosts move between two worlds in the endless dance of profit and loss.
Wow.
What a quote.
What a quote. What a way to end.
So I'm sorry this is kind of a heavy episode.
Yeah, but it was an important one. And I love the way you really highlighted how the women, both alive and deceased, punctuated that experience.
Yeah.
And refused to let go. I mean, the impact is still felt today.
Yeah.
Literally,
yeah.
on the site and through the labor laws and building code conditions that exist today.
Right. If they hadn't persisted, something very different could have happened.
Yep.
And we could have dealt with a lot more tragedies.
Definitely. So, thank you, Missy. This was a great Sheela.
Thank you. Or great Sheelas.
Sheelas,
plural.
yes.
We're going plural there. Yeah, and I do hope if you're a paranormal researcher or somebody that can help these women, please do. If you haven't already, please go help them.
Yeah, please release their souls.
I think it's time to set free. I really do. If they haven't been already. But thank you for listening, everybody.
Yes, send us your feedback.
Yeah, welcome that. We welcome your feedback. And until next time, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
October.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. And keep fighting, ladies.
Keep on fighting.
Keep fighting.
Bye.
Unabashed in your